Colin Kaepernick continues to trend on Twitter, on social media, and many of those are coming out either in favor of Colin Kaepernick's protest or against Colin Kaepernick's protest. Now, in the topic of objectivity, I'm going to give everybody that's about to watch this clip, for every one side of the coin, I'm going to give the other side of the coin and leave my subjectivity out of it until at least the end of the clip. So in terms of what we've seen since pretty much Colin Kaepernick opted to sit during the national anthem and share his words in a press conference afterwards, there have been the likes of NFL players of high caliber like Drew Brees come out against Colin Kaepernick, but I would say Drew Brees at least did it in a very respectable way. He left out a lot of things that some other pundits are attacking for. Now, and there is from on both sides of the aisle, there have been every major news organization has either taken a stand for or against it. So Drew Brees, for example, I'm going to read his quote first before I go over to Twitter also. So here's what Drew Brees had to say. And again, let me read it first. The great thing about this country is that we have the freedoms that allow you to speak out openly about any issue. So I'm not commenting on the issue itself because any person has the right to speak out on any issue they want. That's the great thing about being an American. But the American flag is what represents those freedoms. It represents the very freedom that Colin Kaepernick gets the opportunity to exercise by speaking out his opinion in a peaceful manner about the issue. He also went on to say that he wholeheartedly disagrees with Colin Kaepernick and his protest. However, Drew Brees is also somebody who has gone on 5 USO tours to meet veterans. Interestingly enough, and I guess timing is pretty remarkable. One of the people that you see on our platform, Josh Gibbs, who does WWE content, actually shared over the Fantasy Football Draft conference line that he got to meet Drew Brees while he was on tour. Utmost respect for the man. He said he spent hours up until midnight signing autographs for every single sailor, every single Marine that was on that trip, every single Army veteran that was on that trip. So Drew Brees, one of the more polarizing guys to come out against Colin Kaepernick. Now, Jim Brown of the Cleveland Browns, Hall of Fame running back, came out for Colin Kaepernick. And as we're going to see, it's not so much the numbers that I'm at least concerned about. It would be wrong, factually wrong to say that every one person who is for Colin Kaepernick, there's another one that's against Colin Kaepernick. Truthfully, that's not how the media narrative is running. One of the things that actually came up over the course of last night and became a worldwide trending hashtag, which I found interesting, was the hashtag Veterans for Kaepernick. Now, I need to preempt that, once again, with the facts that, no, not every single veteran is for Colin Kaepernick. Just because there's a trending hashtag and most media outlets pick it up does not necessarily mean that 98.3% of veterans are for Colin Kaepernick. Those aren't real numbers. Probably, statistically speaking, there's probably more veterans against Colin Kaepernick. However, I pulled one tweet I just wanted to show because it kind of summarized the gist of what the hashtag was in terms of those who support. One guy, Immortal Ali at Morris_man, who's an Army veteran, serving in the Army. Do not, quote, support me when convenient and do not assume that you know why I do what I do, and he's holding up a Kaepernick jersey. Again, for every one tweet you see like that, you can find another guy who's burning a Kaepernick jersey. I wanted to continue with this one just because, and again, by the way, Rodney Harrison came out and said his feelings towards it and then apologized for it. Truthfully, I don't think Rodney Harrison had to apologize for it. If that's what he believes, he has the right to say it.
It wasn't his opinions. It was the fact that he questioned Colin Kaepernick's blackness.
Blackness, okay.
So that's what he's, and that's again, that's moving away from the actual issue and relating it specifically to color, which is a problem, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Which we'll get into. Yeah. So to kind of wrap up what we've seen from Colin Kaepernick, what Colin Kaepernick wanted was a national conversation, and that's what Colin Kaepernick got. So by not standing for the national anthem and expressing his case as to why he didn't do it and what his views were, he was successful in a way because everybody's talking about it. Now, it would have been a different story if it was a player of greater skill, right? Like Colin Cowherd, for example, came out and said the day after Kaepernick's protest, far before this became affected on social media that eventually led to media-driven narratives on MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, every major outlet, right? Cowherd came out and said Colin Kaepernick is going to get released by the 49ers, but mark my words, it's not because of the protest. It's because he's making $19 million a year and he does not play to the level or even close to that of a $19 million a year quarterback. even more interesting, and this is where I find the hypocrisy, this is where a little bit of subjectivity is going to come into it before I throw to you, Francis, is that almost every NFL front office executive is comparing Colin Kaepernick to some of the, like, as a hated person, one of the worst people to deal with, and just unpatriotic in the way that he handled this protest. What I find so appalling about that, personally, is that owners like Jerry Jones will give players like Greg Hardy 15 shots to make it in the NFL. Greg Hardy, who has not played to the level of Greg Hardy in years, but has done off-the-field incidents that are way worse than a nonviolent protest and a couple words shared in a press conference. I find it a little bit hypocritical, if not a lot hypocritical, that a lot of the owners are calling or name-calling at Colin Kaepernick or saying he's one of the most hated players in the league. And some even front office executives, according to Bleacher Report, claim that they would resign rather than sign Colin Kaepernick if the owner made him do it. Oh. So I find it hypocritical because there's players who have done way worse. There are, way worse than a nonviolent protest. So, and sharing the words that eventually caused it. Now, the only other side to that one, Francis, you're about to take in 2 seconds, I would find is that you might be taking on, I can see, I guess from the front office perspective, is you might be taking on more than you'd want to handle in terms of the media. Coaches like Bill Belichick are very strict on this. There's no politics in the locker room.
Yeah.
I don't care. Just leave it out of the locker room and make sure you get your job done on the field. And that's another argument as well.
So I got a couple of points. The first thing is, right, so great summary on everything that's been going on and the subjective opinion, which, as you guys know me by now, I'm going to be very subjective because I wear my heart on my sleeve. I have my opinions. I love this country. There's a reason why I've chosen to stay here. Does my love for the country affect my ability to see its flaws? No. Does it affect my ability to understand different opinions? No. It's very easy for people to question Colin Kaepernick's patriotism rather than understanding where he's coming from. It's the easy outlet. It's the go-to. And I would love to sit here and say that it's a general consensus, Jason, of Americans, but it's not. It's often right-wing conservatives who cannot see that you can have a different opinion and it doesn't need to hurt your own sense of patriotism to your country. He is voicing real concerns that we all know well and true, but he's doing it in a way that insults your views towards your country, when it's so ironic when those same people will stand by a man who has pointed out the flaws of the country since day one and built his full campaign around the fact that the country isn't great. That's what's ironic to me. I'm going to rewrite the dictionary and put down irony. People telling Colin Kaepernick to get out the country, the same people that are more than welcome to vote Donald Trump into power when he criticizes the way the country's ran consecutively and the way the country, the values that they no longer uphold. That's an exact quote from Donald Trump, a same quote that Colin Kaepernick also used. So I get a little frustrated when I'm seeing this because I voiced this on the very first clip. I have my discrepancies about the way that he carried this out. I would love everyone to stand or sit together and focus on the issues moving forward and have the conversation. But I'm not going to cloud my vision and spout verbal drivel like Barbie on Adderall will do, Tommy Laren or whatever her name is, just shouting things about how he's not patriotic, posting pictures of veterans who've lost limbs in the war and trying to make it about that and trying to make it as if he's tarnishing their reputation, when if you listen to the guy's actual quotations, he says that he stands by every single soldier who's given their life or currently putting their life on the line for this country. It's the issues that's within the country. They're fighting for the freedoms that we don't uphold in the country because we don't stand for every single citizen. Citizens are being oppressed every single day, and he wants to stand against that. I would rather, again, I think Ja'Cory made a great point. When you do it on your own, it brings so much of the attention towards you. And then media outlets can pick apart every single piece they want to. Oh, he came from white parents. Who gives a fuck what kind of parents raised Colin Kaepernick? It doesn't matter. Like, you're making it so much more about the actual color than the issue that is at hand. And the same thing is people will run the outlet, like, again, Barbie over there, who's like, oh, you're blaming white people for this. He never mentioned white people once in his full transcript. Never mentioned it once. You're causing that divide. You're furthering that divide. He's saying that together we need to come and pay attention more so to this problem. And he has done, as far as I'm not with the way that he did it, he sparked a conversation. He made this conversation even more so relevant than what it should. And people are having a conversation. And a thing that, again, is going back to it is people will speak often for veterans. There's going to be veterans that are against Colin Kaepernick. because they've given so much to sacrifice himself for the country, and they don't believe that he's paying a respect to it. But there's also so many veterans. #1 trending hashtag last night that are stating, "Don't speak for me." I am with fighting for the freedoms within the country as well as I'm fighting for the freedoms outside of the country to protect us, but also to protect the civilians that have the right through the Constitution to say what they want to say, to try and help fix the injustices in this country. So I would love if we wouldn't pick apart the minor logistics of everything to do with like bringing up his family, his past, and how he. The other thing, again, Jason, sorry to ramble on. The other thing about it is like they're almost disregarding this guy's hard work and dedication to get into the NFL, and the fact that he got into the NFL was simply because his country allowed him to. That's it. We gave you it. You had white parents, therefore you just walked your way into the NFL. The guy didn't work hard. The guy didn't dedicate a lot of his time to do so. The guy doesn't give back to his community. Oh, wait, he does. He's not. This isn't just something that he just sprung up in his mind. He's been an advocate for things like this, an advocate for change. So rather than judging it at face value, let's have a conversation.
Yeah, that's pretty much what the goal of what we do here is really, and this is not necessarily related to anything to do with Kaepernick, it's just to have a conversation, to have an open discussion, to have interaction within our own comment section, which sometimes gets ugly, but as I would say, you have the right to say whatever you want in our comment section. I'm not going to stop you. One of the things that we don't do, and this is very important to, I think, any YouTube community in general, we don't delete comments. It's something I've seen done on other YouTube channels when they feel that even when things sometimes are said that are so maybe appalling to some people, to some race, to any group of people, we don't delete those comments because we're not trying to shelter or hide what other people are trying to say. Whether we agree with what somebody says in the comment section is entirely different from your right to actually write it on the internet, right? That's under your discretion. So that's one of the important things is when we see our comment section a lot of the time, and this goes across our entire network, some people say things that are remarkable and true. Other people say things that I don't agree with. Some people say things I do agree with. But the one thing we don't do is we don't look at one and go, I don't think that's right. I have to delete this comment.
Of course not.
We're not going to delete your words. We're not going to delete your voice. That's not how the YouTube interaction and community works. Exactly. I wanted to leave it because you mentioned one thing when it came to the veterans and Don't Speak for Us. And whether, again, those same veterans that are either against or for Kaepernick, they are unified in that way that you should not speak for veterans if you are not one. The last story I'll leave you with is one of my closest friends that I grew up with, someone I call my best friend, someone who would be standing up there on my wedding day type of person. It was a Marine Corps frontline infantry soldier who unfortunately lost his legs overseas. When I started doing news and media, when I started talking about it in college, when I started writing, doing journals, all that kind of stuff, one of the things I used to do was, and I didn't realize what I was doing at the time, but it's a maturing thing, was use his story to prove other points. And he told me a long time ago, do not use my story to speak for me. Yeah. If you are not a veteran, if you are not somebody who has fought overseas, you should not have the right to speak for them. You are entitled to your opinion, but you should not have the right to speak for those people. Let them speak themselves. So if anything that has happened from this, so whether the veterans, that hashtag veterans for Kaepernick, and even the other hashtag veterans against Kaepernick, which again, numbers are numbers. There's probably, I would actually believe, more veterans that are against Kaepernick in all likelihood. However, the fact that they get a voice to actually air that and speak for themselves is one of the best things that could have came out of one quarterback who plays a game for a living saying a few words in a press conference.
And I think the final point which you brought up today on our car ride in this morning, which was a breath of fresh air in amongst everything. Is it not already a movement that the NFL has given back money that was paid?
The taxpayer dollars.
The taxpayer dollars that was basically they charged to have soldiers on the field
for recruitment purposes.
For recruitment purposes, and now they're getting money back that they charged the U.S. Department of Defense. They're now getting that back. So that again, it's not change. It's not changes of the magnitude that we would all like to see, but for people saying that, what is he doing? Like, what is Kaepernick's end goal? Like, what is a guy that's multi-million-dollar going to do? Is like, it's sparking a conversation, and the only thing that I will ever state, if I've had this conversation outside, away from the camera, on the camera, is I'm always going to listen to another point, and that is where the discussion starts to come. That's where the conversation starts to come. Of course, you can disagree, and you made the great point is in the comments, we won't delete comments. There will be some ugly comments in there. There will be racism. There will be things that I couldn't imagine coming out of another person's keyboard or another person's mouth. But with every 10, 11 comments there maybe might be one person that will be like, oh, I never actually looked at it that way. Maybe I'll start to think a little bit different. And therefore, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's it.
I agree. All right, so comment below. Let us know your thoughts, at least on everything that has come with the aftermath of Colin Kaepernick. And if anything, at least in the sports-related terms, do you think he's going to play in the NFL again?
Oh, yeah.
Or do you think
Forgot
he
about
is
that.
done? Because when all is said and done, the man still is a quarterback, and maybe we'll get to the Vikings later on today. Might need him. Who knows? Comment below, like, favorite, subscribe to the channel. You can follow us on Twitter. Everything's in the description box. We'll see you next time.